Welcome to Peace from Health Anxiety. I am so excited that you're here. Before I get into the masterclass, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Lily Seiss. You might know me from social media, or maybe you found me from somewhere else. And I'm a mom. I was a school psychologist for 14 years, and now I've been an anxiety coach and a 3 principles practitioner for 2.5 years. Health anxiety was something that I dealt with for a long time. I had no idea that was its name. I mean, this used to be referred to as hypochondria, which was had some negative connotations. But a lot of the time, I actually didn't feel like I was a hypochondriac. I felt like I knew a lot and I was appropriately worried, and other people just did not know as much as me. I often had headaches. From the time I was a little girl, even before I could swallow a pill, I had headaches. I remember hearing about a brain aneurysm somewhere, and it was like, I thought if it was possible, it was probable. I was very influenced by TV shows, by movies, by hearing the news. It just it stuck with me. For other people, maybe they could hear it and it could flow. So I always had this deep fear that something would be wrong with my brain. And because I had headaches, that felt like it gave it some more weight. Also always, or not always, but very often had stomach aches. So that's how a lot of my anxiety manifested, was stomach aches, headaches, and I thought maybe I have stomach cancer. So those would kind of just be in the background. I remember there was a friend of a friend who died of meningitis, and it just kind of got stuck in my head. And there was one Christmas time that I just was really worried. I had a sore neck. I had traveled from LA to Massachusetts, and I'm sure it was just weird sleeping, but I'm sure I had looked up the symptoms of meningitis, and I really thought I had it, and I was a little bit under the weather, and it just escalated, and I kind of couldn't get it out of my head, but I felt like it was really true. And I ended up going to the emergency room, and it was Christmas Eve, and they actually kept me for a little bit just because I was so worked up and dehydrated, but I didn't have meningitis. As a younger adult too, I just did a lot of Googling and internet searches, just had definitely a more heightened sense of anxiety and a heightened sense of kind of being vigilant about scanning my body. How is it doing? And then my health anxiety really went to the next level after the birth of my daughter. When she was around 2, I went to CrossFit. In the CrossFit that I was at, they kind of really pushed this paleo diet. This was right before the Whole30 and all of that stuff, but they had this mural on the wall, and it was all about paleo. And I avoided learning about paleo because before I had already had an eating disorder. I had recovered from bulimia and restrictive eating when I was 19. So I was I don't want to take on any eating changes, but I kept seeing this mural, and they would do a lot of challenges. I loved the community at CrossFit. That was so fun. They were always doing these community things that involved diet. And so then I just kind of got into it. I did one challenge, I heard about it, and I got a book on paleo, and I read it. And it was if you eliminate this and this and this, you can avoid physical and mental illness. That's how I've read it. It was just demonizing wheat and gluten and dairy and whatever, all those toxins and legumes. And I read it, and my daughter was around 2. So I was wow, if I can feed her in this certain way, maybe she can avoid being sick. I was so anxious and so obsessed with health. I didn't get my period for 3 years. It had nothing to do with my weight. I was at a normal, healthy weight. I was probably even a few pounds heavier than I am now. It was just the extreme stress that I put myself through with an unhealthy obsession with health food. It was just my whole life. I'd kind of recovered a little bit, enough to get my period back and have my son, but then I kind of fell back into it because he had a lot of digestive troubles, and it was eliminate these foods. And I'm great, I'm just going to eat turkey and sweet potatoes. When I was starting out all the paleo stuff, my daughter was in preschool, and I really wanted her to live a long, healthy life. And I felt it was by avoiding certain things and eating very naturally. But I also knew it was really important for her to have an easy relationship with food and be social. And so I didn't want her to develop an eating disorder. So we'd go to these kids' birthday parties, and there would be pizza and cake. And sometimes I would bring her her own cupcake. I made so much of my own stuff, but most of the time I just let her eat her own thing. But I felt between a rock and a hard place, because I'd be seeing her eat pizza, and it would be my stomach would hurt so much. It just stripped out all the fun. And then after another thing didn't work, I went online, and then I found the 3 principles, which is what I'm going to share with you, and so much more. And I started learning about human psychological functioning in a way that I never had. Never in graduate school as a school psychologist, never in all my years of therapy and all my retreats. Oh, and I went to so many. But I heard things, and they're not anything weird or new or groundbreaking, but I heard it in a different way. And through being in this conversation, my health anxiety fell away. So I had done a lot of work in terms kind of like demantling paleo and all of that stuff and making peace with my body. But I don't know, just went on behind the scenes, just gone. And I have no health anxiety. It doesn't mean that I don't have a worried health thought here and there, but I never, ever, ever would have thought that I can experience the peace that I can now. I have diabetes too. I was like a later in life diagnosis of type 1 diabetes. And my kids had gotten sick. There was a pandemic. I know that there still might be, there is a pandemic, but the lockdown, like when COVID, I never, ever would have thought that I could not have health anxiety during that time, but it never even came back. And so I just want to say there is so much hope. I was very obsessed with health, very obsessed with health. Even before I had kids, I had a dog and he had like a little, I don't know, a growth, and I would measure it. Oh, I used to keep headache diaries. Oh, I obsessed. I definitely had health anxiety, OCD, and I do not anymore. I'm a normal, carefree, loving mom. And I used to think that here was careful, here was like vigilant, on top of it, me. The other end was like careless. And I did feel like some people in my life, they were careless. And so I had to be here. I would be the one to worry. Now I see you can be carefree. You can take great care of your health, great care of your loved one's health, and you can be carefree. And that is where I'm at. And that is what's possible for you, to go from health anxiety to health confidence.